one slice of meat, one leaf of lettuce, and that's it, and bread.
Let us know when we're live. We're good? Okay, good evening and welcome to the Finance and Claims Committee meeting of the Common Council for today, Thursday, January 11th, starting at 8:11 p.m. I apologize for the late delay, but we were transitioning the council chambers from a previous meeting to the current meeting that's taking place now. We'll start the meeting with the roll call. Council Member Jim Freya.
Here.
Council Member Johan Lopez.
Present.
Council Member Melissa Murray. Council Member Doug Sutton.
Present.
Council Member Heather Dunn. Council Member Dewan Wiggins.
Here.
And Council Member Greg Burnett. We have a quorum. Thank you. Moving on to item 3, which is public participation. We did not receive any emails prior to the start of the meeting. Is there anyone that has signed on via Zoom that wishes to speak? If they can raise their hand electronically, and we will add them as a participant so that they can speak.
There are no attendees.
Okay, there's currently no attendees, so we will close public participation and move forward to item 4 in the agenda, which is approval of the minutes of the following Finance Committee meetings. The first set of meetings was from December 7th, 2023, the Special Finance and Claims Committee meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes? Councilmember Melissa Murray, thank you. Do we have any changes, deletions, corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor show by a raise of hand or verbal aye. Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to the second set of meetings from the December 14th, 2023 regular meeting. Do we have a motion to approve this set of minutes? Councilmember Johan Lopez, thank you. Do we have any additions, deletions, or changes to those minutes? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor show by a raise of hand or electronically. Thank you. It is unanimous. So we'll now move on to items 5, 6, and 7 from our tax collector, which will be the Claims Committee report for January 2024, the narrative on the tax collector, and also the monthly tax collector's report dated December 2023. And Lisa, I see you there. Can you hear us?
Lisa's just having a little bit technical issue right now.
She's having a technical issue. Okay. Okay, we will oh, I see she just came on. Lisa, can you hear us? Hello, Lisa, can you hear us?
I can't, I'm hearing him through you, but I can't hear him through my computer. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes, we can.
I can't hear you.
We don't see you as
Hold on
muted,
just a minute.
so
Chitsame, you're there, right? All right. All right, good. As long as you can hear me, I apologize. I don't know what's wrong, but I will try to proceed. There's a number of things that are on this agenda from my office. The first of which is the claims report. It's a very short report this month. Not a lot of refunds, but there is a special request. So on the second page for Crown Atlantic Company, That is an assessment appeal that was settled in court. It was 3 years worth of taxes that this taxpayer is owed a refund for. So if you would be good enough to consider voting for that, the rest of the refunds on this month's report are for informational purposes only. And once you proceed with that, then I can pick up with the narrative and the other reports.
Okay, so we will start with the item 5, which is this Claims Committee report for January 2024. There is one item that is over $10,000 for the amount of $21,100.19. So do we have a motion to approve the Claims Committee report? Councilmember Doug Sutton, thank you. I'll call for the question. All those, are there any questions? Let me ask that first. Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, show by raise a hand. All those opposed, Councilmember Wiggins, are you voting? Thank you. So this is unanimous. So we will move this forward to the next Common Council meeting on Tuesday, January 23rd for full council approval. Before you move on to the narrative and the monthly tax collector report, I know, Lisa, you had sent a one-pager outlining the role of the tax collector, and we really appreciate that. So if you could cover that at this point, especially for the new members to the Finance Committee, I think that would be very valuable. You're muted and we can't hear you now. So if you can unmute from your computer, there you go.
There I am. Okay. The reason why I'm at your meetings every month is twofold. The Common Council and the Finance and Claims Committee by charter and also by statute exercises an oversight role with regard to tax refunds. So we provide every month to you what we call claims, and they are tax refunds for taxpayers who have either overpaid or paid in error. And most of these claims don't require a vote from you at all. The information is just provided because you do exercise that oversight role. And these are public funds when we have them until we give them back. But there are some, which the ones that are in excess of $10,000 do require a vote from you at the committee level and also at the council level before we process those refunds. So those refunds we will ask you to vote on. There is one that you just did. The other reason why I'm here is property tax collections comprise approximately 90% of our operating revenue for the city. And we feel it's important that the Finance and Claims Committee and the council at large be aware of where we stand at different points in the year with regard to tax collections because of the fact that it does constitute such a sizable chunk of your revenue. So I try to provide you a numeric report, a monthly report where we track our current and our past due collections year to date, fiscal year to date, and we compare it to where we were last year. But I also give you a narrative because some people would rather read it than try to figure out the numbers. So we encapsulate it in a narrative and also take the opportunity to inform you of what we're doing, what kind of mailings are going out, what types of enforcement activities are we undertaking, because as council members, you will frequently be questioned by your constituents, and we would rather that you have the information ahead of time so you can be informed and ready to answer their questions if they call you, if they get a delinquent notice, if they're not able to get a health permit because they owe back taxes or something of that nature. So we try to keep you informed of what we're doing. So that's why I'm here every month, and I'm perfectly happy to answer any questions that any of you may have. So I tried to give you that little write-up so you know why I'm here.
Any questions? in terms of why Lisa is here. Well, she's here because she brings extremely great value to the Finance Committee. So thank you for that write-up, and I'm sure the new members to the committee appreciate that and appreciate your role and your contribution. So
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Would you like me to move on to the narrative?
yes, please.
Okay, great. This narrative reflects the month of December. We closed our month earlier. It took us a little longer than we would have liked. But in terms of where we are halfway through the current fiscal year, through the end of December. And we had collected through the end of December 58.06% of our adjusted levy. Our levy changes every month because some taxes become due and some taxes are written off by the assessor. So sometimes that levy goes down a bit. Other accounts are added on. So the levy is in a constant state of flux, and we judge our collections against what our adjusted levy is, also net of refunds. So all those refunds that we give out, that comes out of our collections. We're a little bit behind where we were last year at this time. That was because we didn't get as many payments from escrow agents during the month of December as we normally do. It's nothing to be concerned about. We won't really know where we stand until we process all our current collections, which usually happens around the first week of February. So February 1st is the last day to pay. So even when we get to the end of January, we really won't know exactly where we stand. But we think we're doing okay. The collection is in full swing. Taxpayers can pay in person, they can pay online, they can pay over the phone. We have an arrangement with local banks where they can walk in at those banks and pay there. We did also, because we got a request from the prior Finance and Claims Committee, we included in every real estate bill this year a pamphlet that describes the city and state property tax relief programs for disabled and elderly taxpayers. You probably got those in your residences as well. That was very well received by our taxpayers to try to spread the word about what those programs are, what the income limits are, and so forth. That's really the update on the current collection. With regard to prior years, the city of Norwalk conducts a property tax sale of tax delinquent properties, usually every 2 years. We have one scheduled for July of 2024, and we started working on that sale in November of last year. And I can even update further. Since we did the narrative, we did another update, and we sent out those letters in November. And to date, through today, we've collected in excess of $770,000 on those tax sale properties. We have not even filed our notices yet. That won't happen until probably March. But we're giving those taxpayers who are scheduled to be included in the sale based on how many years they owe and how much they owe. I'm giving them a heads up of what we're doing to give them more time to deal with the situation. And this is how we normally do it. It does appear to be yielding fruit. And those delinquent collections will continue to go up. Our last tax sale, which we had right after COVID, yielded $9.6 million in collections. The next time I appear before you, I'll probably give you an update on what our cumulative total is for tax sale. But our first sale in Norwalk was held in 2003, and we're now in 2024 having another one. I will continue to update you between now and July on that sale and where we are in the process, because I'm sure you'll have questions about that. We also do an initiative with the health department, where if you have back taxes more than a year, you're not able to get a health permit renewed. And we're working on that now. We're working on a wage garnishment. There's a number of other things we do, but we try to be very proactive and very efficient and very effective in our enforcement. And the reason for that is because the higher our current collection rate is, the better job we do of bringing in our current taxes on time. The lower the mill rate can be set by the Board of Estimate and Taxation. If we have a lot of unpaid accounts and a low current collection rate, unfortunately, the mill rate has to be higher than we would like it to be in order to compensate for that because the city is still spending the same amount of money. The programs are already budgeted for. So that is why we take our enforcement as seriously as we do. But I'm very glad to answer your questions to try to dispel any thoughts you might have about how terrible tax collectors are. We really aren't. Our goal is to try to bring that revenue in so that you as policymakers can do what you want to do for your constituents and to set the policies in place that you're hoping to do. So that's the long and short of it. And I'm happy, like I said, to answer any questions that you have.
Yes, we do have some hands up. Councilmember Melissa Murray, followed by Councilmember Johan Lopez.
I want to understand the impact, and this may actually be more for Greg as a senior member here, in the other services. So if there's a tax sale on someone's property, or how does that there's impact to that person? So what other costs are there? Are there other costs that we incur, to help whoever's going through the tax sale?
I didn't really hear the question.
Could you maybe speak a little
So
louder?
I was really just looking at the impact to the people, and I know you say, and I'm not implying that you're the evil tax seller, but there's got to be cost if there's any assistance that a person who's losing a property or might need from the city. So is there any cost? What are the costs? You said that we gained 9.6 back, but what are some of the costs associated with it?
What are some of the costs involved with having a tax sale?
Well, does it burden city services at all in any way? Is there, any assistance services? Do we know the balance of that?
I think you might be alluding to is when by the time a property gets to the tax sale, we have done, and maybe Lisa, you can outline all of the efforts that we have done to avoid them getting to the tax sale. In terms of reaching out to the property owner and understanding what their situation is and trying to come up with some remedy. It's not as if there's outstanding taxes and the very next effort is up for a tax sale. So
Well, we send tax bills twice a year. We send past due notices twice a year. So our taxpayers are basically getting 4 notices a year from us for what they owe. We file our liens in March. We are not having a tax sale until we file a lien against the property. But unfortunately, like I said in the beginning, 90% of our operating revenue comes from property taxes. And my job as a tax collector is to collect the taxes that are due. And I have a warrant from the state that's signed by the state that I get every year that says you shall collect from each taxpayer next herein the amount that they're billed. And if they fail to pay, you shall levy and sell their property. So it is my responsibility by statute to pursue tax sale against taxpayers who don't pay their taxes on time. Now in Norwalk, we have 26,000 parcels of real estate. So the fact of the matter is I can't have a tax sale on every single parcel that's past due. So what we do is we have a criteria based on how far back you owe and how much you owe. And if you meet either criteria, your property is eligible for tax sale. So for example, you could have a boat locker or a boat slip or a garage unit with a very low tax bill. But if you're 3 years delinquent, we're going to put that property in the sale because we think 3 years is long enough. In contrast, you could have a property that has a tax bill that is $60,000 a year. I'm not going to let that tax bill go for very long. I'm not going to wait 3 years. I'm going to put it in the sale after a year. And the fact of the matter is that property with that size of a tax bill probably has a mortgage on it. And when the bank gets the letter from me that says this is in our next tax sale, the bank is going to pay the bill. And I don't distinguish whether the money is coming from the taxpayer or the mortgage holder. I'm just trying to collect that money. There's only 8 of us in the office. That staff has not changed in 26 years. We do all our own enforcement. I'm an attorney. We don't farm this work out. So what we're doing is we're actually saving those taxpayers who are having a difficult time paying their taxes anyway, literally thousands of dollars in attorney's fees and costs, which is what they would be paying if we did what a lot of other municipalities do, which is turn this over to an attorney to have a tax sale, because they charge fees and we don't. The only fees we charge are our advertising fees and the title search fee. And yes, those fees get pretty steep, but all our labor is quote unquote free to them. But I'm not a financial planner. I'm not a financial advisor. And I really do stay away from telling people what to do. When they come in with questions, I basically say, you need to talk with somebody who's in your corner who can advise you on what you think you might do. But we have in Connecticut a tax system that is based on value. You know this because we're going through revaluation right now. So value is what we tax on. We don't base it on income. We don't base it on what services you use. We don't base it on how long you've lived in Norwalk. We base it on value. And that is the system in which we live. So if a taxpayer, if it turns out that they are not able to afford the taxes on the property that they own, that they live in, they need to sometimes make a decision. And that does happen in Norwalk, and it happens throughout the state of Connecticut. We all live where we can afford to live. But my job is to get that revenue in. We don't offer payment plans. We don't make exceptions for people. This is a constitutional taking of property. There's constitutional rights involved, and I need to treat everybody the same. And I've been sued over tax sales in the past, and I've always prevailed in court because I do treat everybody the same. So it sounds very harsh, but that is the reality in which we live. And I hope that answers your question, that the General Assembly gives Connecticut tax collectors a lot of power. Our liens are superior even to IRS liens. And the reason for that is because if you look at your expenses in the operating budget, most of those property taxes, most of that revenue we bring in goes to support the public education system. And they deem that a greater good for society, such an important public good, that is why they give local tax collectors the powers that they do.
Thank you. And I'm actually really impressed with the efficiency. You have 8 staff members for 20 years. So I really appreciate that explanation of the process, and something's going right when you have people who have that kind of longevity. Thanks for your clarification.
Did we address your question?
Yes, my question really was, and I think you addressed it in the beginning, was that the costs to collect were all beforehand, and that 9.6 was the endpoint. So that's the
Yeah, I think the net of the tax sale is like the very last resort. And Lisa's office, they do a great deal of outreach and communication and try to understand the situation before it gets to the tax sale. So it's really at the very end of the process that a property falls within the tax sale criteria.
Well, the other thing I would add is we start with about 200 properties, and we're going to end up with about a dozen, and all the others will pay. So it's not like we're selling 200 properties. We're sending letters and we're sending correspondence and going through the process. But between the time that we send that first notice out in March and the actual sale in July, most of the properties will pay their taxes. And that is the purpose of the sale. The purpose of the sale is not to sell anything. I'd be happy if we didn't. The purpose is to get the revenue in. And that is another way to look at it.
Thank you.
I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. I got a quick question on the 4.2 million in supplemental motor vehicle taxes. My question is, how has the addition of that 4.2 million in motor vehicle taxes actually impacted the levy? And so like, well, also like on top of that, what strategies are actually in place to to address the cumulative net adjusted levy being down from the original budgeted of 3.7?
Well, what we do with motor vehicle taxes is we send bills and delinquent notices, but we also have an arrangement with the Connecticut Department of Motor Vehicles where anyone who owes past due taxes to the city is not able to register any motor vehicle or vessel in their name until those back taxes are paid. What I think you're looking at on the report is you might be looking at the motor vehicle supplemental, which is not billed until November. Those are for motor vehicles that came onto the grand list after the grand list date of October 1st, 2022. So we did not bill those cars in July of 23. We didn't bill them until November of 2023. They're prorated bills based on the number of months that a person registered a vehicle, or if you, for example, had one vehicle, got rid of it and replaced it with a different one, we're sending you a bill for that second vehicle now. Those bills are payable by February 1st, but that happens every year. The motor vehicle supplemental has been billed that way since the late 70s. And any motor vehicle that's not on the grand list date of October 1 is billed not in July following, but the January after that. And my office doesn't really get into any of those adjustments or anything like that. We just collect based on what the assessor gives us and what the Connecticut Department of Motor Vehicles sends to the city in terms of a motor vehicle grand list. I hope that answers your
Yeah,
question.
that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any additional questions for Lisa at this time? Okay. Seeing none, thank you. That covers items 5, 6, and 7. And we'll move on in the agenda to item 8, which is an update from our interim tax. Let me say thank you, Lisa. We're all set.
I'm sorry for the audio problems. Thank you as well.
No problem. Thank you. Item 8 is an update on the revaluation process, and we have Paul Gorman, who is our interim tax assessor, to give us a verbal update on the reval process. Paul, you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so basically where we're at in the reval at this point in time is we're in the middle of what's called the informal hearing process. That is when the taxpayers, residents have an opportunity after receiving their notices to schedule meetings with either SafeGround Analytics, who did all the commercial valuation, or with Vision Government Solutions, who did the residentials, to either just get information to have a better understanding about how the value was arrived at, or if they have concerns about the value and think that it's inaccurate, they can present evidence to one of the two reval companies to try to convince them that their valuation should be lowered. So that's going on. The Vision Government Solutions people have meetings through the end of this week, and I believe the last day that they have meetings scheduled for are on Tuesday of next week. The commercial team from SafeGround Analytics has completed all of their informal hearings and are in the process of reviewing all the submitted information to make their decisions if any reductions are warranted. Vision will be doing the same thing next week once they've concluded all of their meetings. And then new notices will be sent out to all the people who participated in informal hearings to let them know if their assessment has stayed the same, reduced, or gone up in value. Because it does happen every once in a while that during the meeting, some things will be disclosed that end up actually having an impact of raising the value of a property, but that's fairly rare. So that after that's all completed, as long as there are no curveballs that we are not anticipating, we would be able to sign the grand list at the end of January, which would then lead us into the Board of Assessment Appeals application period, which is February 1st through February 20th, with hearings to be held during the month of March, once we're able to nail down the hearing dates with the 12 member board that has been assembled for this revaluation year. So that in a nutshell is where we're at with the revaluation. The only other major thing that's going on in the assessor's office right now besides that is we're getting ramped up for the application period beginning on February 1st for our elderly homeowner and disabled homeowners credit program that runs from February 1st through May 15th. A package will be going out to all people who are due to renew their benefits and or that have called in. Thanks to the pamphlet that Lisa sent out, we've had pretty good response of people asking for packages to be sent to them so that they can apply for the first time. And then we'll take it from there to see how it goes.
Question, Paul, do you have an idea of the number of meetings that are scheduled or requested to take place as it relates to the reval?
The commercial team had 90 or so. They haven't given me an updated number this week, but I believe they were right around 90 for informal hearings. And the reval team from Vision was running at about 4% of the total. So I think they were around 1,500 informal hearings. I can get you an exact number tomorrow. I'll ask both reval teams to give me an updated number as of today.
If I understand that correctly, you said 90 meetings?
90 meetings with commercial properties, yes.
Oh, 90 with commercial. How about on the residential side?
Around 1,500.
1,500. Is that high,
Yep.
low, or?
No,
what?
that's expected. We have over 20,000 residential parcels. So it's within the, Gary has been providing me with details, and we've been running, they were expecting to go as high as 4%. And I think we're at about 3.5% the last time he updated me, but that was about a week ago. So I have to get the new updated numbers now that they've done another week's worth of appeals, because the number that of people that apply can change. So they try to give me an update once a week, because some people just ultimately end up canceling their appointment. So I want to be able to give you the most updated number, so I could email you the exact numbers tomorrow.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, yes, this is Jim Freya, Paul. Do you have a sense of the accuracy based on the request that you're getting? I'm making the assumption that without anybody making an appointment for review, that they're more or less agreeing with the valuation. Do you have any sense of whether we have a high level of acceptance or low level or anywhere in between?
I think we've got a high level of acceptance, and I think that when the informals are done, the amount of people, the percentage of people that receive reductions is going to be fairly low. I've done a lot of meetings myself, people that got their notices late for one reason or another. And so I've been doing a lot of reval review of I've done probably about 50 or 60 myself. And of those, I would say I've only reduced like maybe 10% of them. So, and I think that Vision's probably going to be running at about the same clip, probably reducing maybe 10 to 15% of the ones that they received. I haven't had any actual details from them, but all the properties that I've reviewed throughout the entire reval, the you had mentioned accuracy. I believe that Vision did a very good job with the residential side. And I do believe that the reval on the commercial side was also very accurate.
Good. Thanks very much, Paul.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Great. If there's no other comments or questions, thank you, Paul, for the update. And
Okay.
We look forward to hopefully getting this resolved so that we can move forward by the end of the month with working on the grand list number.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Have a great evening. And Greg, I will get you those updated informal hearing counts tomorrow.
Thank you, appreciate it. Moving on in the agenda to item 9, which is to receive the Oak Hills Authority monthly financial statement for November 2023. And we have Denise Brown from the Oak Hills Park Authority on to give us the update. Denise, are you there?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Yeah, this is the financials for the month of November. So November is kind of like an in-between month for us. We start to slow down, of course, because of the weather, but the weather has been good, so our revenue rounds have been up for that month. Our net operating income is above our budgeted item, which we are above about $87,000. And our expenses kind of remained the same that month. They were pretty even, so there wasn't anything unexpected. Oak Hills has made $67,000 in repayment to the city since the month of July for the fiscal year, new fiscal year. And let's see, we're in our 3rd year of our 5-year lease for the new carts that we have. And Jim Shell is very pleased with the lithium batteries. He said they're operating very well, that they're lasting a lot longer than the regular standard batteries. And so he seems to be very pleased with that. The carts are showing a little bit of wear, but it's kind of in line with having them running for, daily for the 3 years so far. But in general, they're operating very well. So we're pleased with the new carts that we have purchased. And let's see, so year to date for our November, we have a cash balance of about $796,000. And so that includes the $45,000 in our capital reserve. So as we start to slow down, obviously for December, January, February, we feel that we'll be able to, cover whatever expenses that we have. Our staff has cut back quite a lot since, everything is quiet now. So that should be pretty even. We don't feel like we have anything particular coming up that should impart anything new that we have. And let's see. So, I mean, basically, we're doing pretty level with everything. I mean, actually, today was such a beautiful day. I was wondering what the rounds were like for today. When we have days like this, it really is a big perk for everybody getting out there and still trying to play some golf. So if we can carry on through a couple of months, we have a very small staff right now that we have enough that, can handle whatever golfers that we have on the course. Of course, when we get too much of a heavy rain, that impacts us, but basically everything is running fairly smoothly. If anybody has any questions?
Oh, what is the status at the restaurant?
Well, as Alan Dutton, I believe he spoke at the taxation meeting on Monday night. And so where we stand right now is that we have 3 interested parties. We have a restaurant committee who has reviewed the parties. They met again yesterday, and they're putting together a final report to present to our meeting on Tuesday. We have a board meeting coming on Tuesday so that the whole board will review all the information. And at that point, we will be able to discuss exactly, what we would like to see and what they are presenting to us. 2 of the companies that are interested are also, one is in Westchester and one is in Stamford. They operate restaurants within another golf course. So they're fairly versed in how to, operate a restaurant in a golf course area. And one of them is a restaurant operator in Stamford also. So I believe that we have three fairly solid choices to approve. We worked with the city with the RFPs, and I know that Nancy of Norwalk had an article out the other day, but it was a fair article. I think I think it was a decent article for where we stand with the restaurant and how we left amicably with DDS. So we're feeling that everything should be on course. Hopefully we'll have a decision made by February so that we can have somebody in there and up and running in April. That is our goal.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions or comments for Oak Hills?
One quick, Denise, this is Jim Freyer. You might not be able to answer this, so that's fine. Lithium batteries. Did we have to do anything to the barn where the carts are to take precautions on those lithium batteries? Do you know?
I do not. That would be a question that I'd have to get back to you with from Jim Shell,
Okay.
our superintendent. So I'd be happy to send you an email and find out exactly if we did have to do anything different.
Nothing urgent on it. I'm just curious whether we ever had to do anything, any work to take any precautions for storing them and recharging them.
I can find out and I'd be glad to let you know.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Denise, for the update. And we'll look forward to further update next month, and hopefully we'll have good news about the restaurant.
All right, thank you very much. Have a good
Great.
evening.
Good evening. Moving on to item 10 in the agenda. And let me just state that items 10, 11, and 12 are all related to the ARPA funding. And all of these requests are reallocations. So it's not as if these are additional dollars, but these are dollars that we have carefully monitored since the beginning of ARPA through the Finance Committee. We put a very defined process in place that each and every dollar related to ARPA for the city would go through the finance department. It would be identified in the spreadsheet with an ARPA account, and it would be approved by the Common Council before any dollars were distributed or allocated towards a project. So in continuing that defined process, we're looking to reassign ARPA dollars in these three items that are before the committee. So just wanted to give that preamble in terms of what's coming before us related to ARPA funding. So with that, item 10 reads as follows. Approve ARPA transfer requests for Norwalk Community Recovery Fund Program, ARPA account as noted, ACS03 in the amount of $1,170,062 from ARPA account noted APW01, and there's several ARPA numbers here, so you can read along with me. DRG 2021-1 for the Dreamy Hollow Bets project, which is for $372,013.56, ARPA account noted. APW06 Stormwater Management Plan for $48,462.06. The ARPA account noted. APW 07, the Coastal Resiliency Citywide, for the amount of $350,000. The ARPA account noted APW 11, Municipal Solid Waste Disposal, for the amount of $78,553. ARPA account noted AEC 12, Digitalization Documentation, for the amount of $190,972. And ARPA account noted AEC 13, Business Navigation Online, for the amount of $130,000. Do we have a motion to approve this request? Councilmember Johan Lopez, thank you. And we have on the account, on the call, Lamont Daniels, who is Chief of Community Services, to provide the background on item 10.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Burnett, and good evening, everyone. I'll work to be brief, but I'll also entertain any clarifying questions that you may have. I do want to alert that I am home and my wife are trying to do double duty. I have a 3-year-old that she's trying to keep away from me so we can get through this. And so as Councilman Burnett has indicated, and I'll try to be brief in the sense that just to update you, the new council leaders this evening, is that 2 years ago, under the previous council, the council has approved $4 million that was dedicated to the Norwalk Community Recovery Fund. Since then, we have allocated $2 million to support our nonprofits during the height of COVID. So this funding, this new funding, is a continuation of the city's commitment to support our nonprofit community. And we also have used some of this funding to support our health department, our public health initiatives during COVID. And so I believe you have in your package that the $1.17 million, $500,000 was already approved under the former council to support our housing, rent, and mortgage relief program. In addition to that, $100,000 was already approved by this current council, where I presented in person for our workforce development initiative, where I presented in person. And then under the previous council last year, it was $70,000 to increase mental health services that we have funded the Triangle Community Center, which is the only LGBTQ plus organization in our city that we allotted some funding to increase mental health services. So that's where we get the $670,000. In addition to, we will be creating a new grant program, which totals to $500,000. So when you add the two, that's the $1.17 million that we are transferring. And we have not yet put together that program, but I will like to share with you that ARPA is very restricted in the categories in which we could use this money. So for mental health services, for eviction services. And so through my team, our human service director, Indiana, will be putting forth a program to distribute that funding. As Councilman Burnett has indicated, we're asking for the transfer so we can now move forward in that process, and then that will go forward through the Community Services Committee, and then eventually hit the Common Council once we put together the program and put forth the grant permissions that I'll be seeking for your approval. So again, the 670 has already been pre-approved, and we're just now transferring the money so we can get that funding out to those programs. And then I wanted to do it all, so I don't have to keep coming back. I'm asking to transfer the $500,000 so that we can exercise our commitment to put together our last and final grant program, which the city is committed to, and then that'll go through community services to move that program forward. And I'll entertain any questions to clarify, just trying to be brief, but certainly make myself available for questions.
And I just wanted to, and thank you for that narrative. Just wanted to add that just some background for the committee. So working with the city and the chief of staffs in each of the departments that received ARPA funding, they were requested to go out and look at all of their initial ARPA funding and identify any dollars that could be reallocated towards this community recovery fund. So this is, as you can see, is coming from various departments that have done that assessment, identified these dollars that could be made available for the community fund. So that's how we can, again, these are not new dollars, but they're being reallocated towards this effort.
Thank you for that clarity, Councilman Burnett, Chair Burnett.
Sure. I see one hand up, Councilmember Dewan Wiggins.
Yeah, so I have a couple questions. One, you know, this has been kind of like a hot topic in Norwalk for a couple years now. And one of my questions is, so I know you said you gave it was some that was, you know, allocated to Triangle. Some was for, if I'm not mistaken, housing assistance or something like that. So
That's correct.
it was 4 million total. And what's the remaining after the organizations that received those funds?
I'm not clear what the remaining of.
So it was supposed to be, it was 4 million total, correct?
Right. So, well, 4 million, but 1.5 was dedicated for nonprofits. So we already dispersed the original 1.5. So if you do the math here, we will allocate after the 500 for tonight. We will be allocating an additional 330,000, and that will conclude the 1.5 for nonprofits. The other 500 will go to some of our city services.
Oh no, that's what I'm asking. It was 4 million total, but 2 was for last year.
Correct.
Or yeah, 2.
But not for nonprofits. 1.5 went to nonprofit. 500,000 went to the city.
Okay, so now it will be another 150. 1.5 for nonprofits and 5 for the city.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm asking. So out of the 1.5, what's left out of that again?
Well, right now we're moving 1.1. So when you subtract to get 1.5, it would be 330,000.
So if you say, if you subtract, I'm just trying to do the math, I'm sorry. So 1.5, and you said subtract, so are you saying is out of the 1.5 million is 350 left?
330.
330 left?
Correct. And we have yet decided how we're going to, create a program for it. We have not yet decided.
So, all right, so 1.5 thousand. So it's 1.170. That's what was already given away basically.
Well, that is what is before you tonight.
1.7 to give away to the organizations you mentioned, correct?
Correct. Well, we're creating a new program for the 500.
Yeah, the new program
tonight.
The new program. It's so many things happening in my head, right? So it's 350 left.
330.
I'm at 330 left. I'm sorry. The 500,000 is for a new program. That's the city program out of the 2 million, correct?
Right, but you all are not approving the 500 for the city side. You're approving or they're requesting the transfer of the 500,000 to create a new program to disperse funding to the community.
Okay.
To organizations.
I know you probably said this already, but this is kind of like, this is a clarifying question. So the 1.170, what did that go to again?
So the 670,000 went to the programs that I mentioned, 500,000 to the housing relief and mortgage assistance program, 100,000 that you are aware of to the workforce development that I presented most recently, and 70,000 to the Triangle Community Center to increase capacity for our student population for mental health services. And so tonight, the new program, we are asking to transfer the 500,000 to create a new grant program for nonprofits that have yet been created.
Just to be clear, we are not reviewing and approving how the funds will be distributed in the Norwalk Community Recovery Fund tonight. What we are approving are the transfers for the total amount of 1.170 to the fund. I'm assuming, Chief Daniels, that you'll come back to us if necessary in terms of how the funds in the Recovery Fund program will be distributed.
That is correct. As I pointed out, the purpose of this approval is the 670 has already been approved by the previous council, with the caveat that you all approved, the new council approved the 100,000 that was presented with Norwalk Acts. The 500,000, once approved, transferred, and then approved through Common Council, it would still need to go through the Community Services Committee because we don't have a contract or any of the necessary instruments to move forward, which would go through our traditional way, the committee, and then go before the Common Council once we have identified how we're going to disperse the funds. The purpose tonight is approval to transfer the funds so I can create a program.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that, Greg. I was just trying to figure out the breakdown of the 2 million. Because to me it wasn't adding up to 2 million. So that's what I was trying to figure out. Because if it was 4 million total, and 2 million was spent last year, and I'm trying to figure out the 2 million this year, and I know we're trying to move 1.170, and if it's 330 left.
So if you add the 1.1 and the 330, Councilman Wiggins, that's your 1.5 million, which is dedicated for the nonprofit communities.
Okay. And that's what I'm trying to get at, right? You actually
That's the 1.5.
That's 1.5, but the other 5, because you mentioned 500,000 that we're moving. So that's the other. Is that what is that 5 for? That's just for the city services, correct?
No, we're not transferring that. That's for just particular action item. We're transferring the 500,000 for the grant program, which totals to the 1.5.
All right. So maybe I'm saying this wrong, because can someone else help me understand this? Because if it's 330 that's left, but you're saying we sending 5 for the grant program. This is what I'm trying to figure out. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Can someone else help me? If you're not understanding.
So if you add the 670, which has already been granted and approved, we're transferring that. And then if you add the 500, you'll get the requested amount that I'm asking for transfer tonight. Then if you add the 330, that gives you your 1.5. That is the ARPA allocation for the nonprofit community. And I believe my math is right.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Well, what's the question?
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, that's a good point.
question
What is
is.
the question? What is before us? What we're addressing right now is the $1,170,000.62. That's what's before this committee right now. So what is the question related to this approval?
I asked the question, Greg.
But I'm asking you a question. Do you have a question on this approval?
Yeah, because I wasn't understanding the numbers, Greg. I literally just said that. I wasn't understanding, because it was 600,000 plus 300,000 plus the 1.17.
No. 670 plus 500 is 1.170.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So where I was lost at was the 500,000 for the program. That's where I was lost.
I'm not sure if I understand.
I think you're mixing up two 500,000s. I think you're confusing the 500,000 that's going to the city and the additional 500,000 that Lamont's talking about.
I don't know, that's just what he said.
670 from last year, okay? Another 500 this year. It brings the total up, total would have been 1.170. Then there's
Mhm.
still another 330 that's gonna be added to that.
That's correct, Councilman Jim.
And yes, and I understand, right? And that equals out to that equals out to the 1.5.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, so what's the question?
So what I was asking was the extra 500,000 that he was mentioning was, he said 500,000 for program, to develop a program. I was wondering if that was a mistake. Cause if it's 500,000 for what, is it 500,000 or 330,000? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Right, I said the 330 because you asked about, it was 2 million allocated to the program. So I said, no, it was 1.5. So the 330, I was just sharing, let you know that there's still 330 remaining that for the purpose of this action item, I'm not requesting because we have not yet developed a program. And that will then add up to the 1.5 million total for the ARPA allocation for the Community Recovery Fund.
Okay, all right. So all right, I get it now. All right. So the 1.7 is what the 1.17 is what we're moving for the programs that's already kind of been approved by the council. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, are there any other questions or comments related to this request? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the approval of the transfers, reallocations, I should say, show by.
Thank you.
Councilman Wiggins is okay, it's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 11, also under Chief Daniels, I'll read as follows: approval of ARPA transfer requests for Norwalk Community Carver. ARPA account number as noted, ACS 04, in the amount of $500,000 from account number noted ARPA AFG 01, ARPA general purpose $400,000, ARPA account number noted AFN 01, fiber optic cable $71,677.50, ARPA account noted AEC 12, digitalization documentation, $28,322.50. Do we have a motion on this item?
So
Councilmember Jim Freya, thank you. Chief Daniels, if you can provide the narrative on this item.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So the city is requesting this $500,000 to provide financial assistance for low-income families whose elementary school-age children attend Norwalk Public Schools. This funding will allow Carver to continue its financial aid and discount to programs which subsidize tuition for almost 600 students enrolled in their program. I also just want to add that I did not, to your point, Council Chair Burnett, I did not ask Ms. Peter Canavelet, the CEO of Carver, to join me. Again, this is the transfer, but for the purpose of this transfer, she is prepared and ready to present to the Community Services Committee, because once it pending your approval tonight and the approval at the Common Council at large, this contract will have to go before the Community Services, which then the council members who are on community services can ask questions, and then in preparation for the contract before we go before the general council, common council, she'll be also prepared to present. But again, for the purpose of this action item asking your approval to transfer the funding so we can initiate contract, but she'll be prepared to do a full presentation of how this money is used. But I just wanted to share that quick narrative so you understand the need and how we're directing this funding.
Thank you for that. And just to provide further clarity, if you can help us, these funds will be transferred to you, under your department for your department to manage the distribution of the $500,000 to the Carver, Community Carver, or the after-school programs. Is that correct?
That is correct. This funding will go directly to the Carver, and for our new council members, we do it a very comprehensive contract, so we will know how many students are being served. We'll actually know where they reside. So we're making sure we're identifying the right students who really could use this financial support. And that's part of our contractual obligations when the city is using taxpayers' dollars. While this is ARPA, it's still taxpayers' dollars. And so, but again, this conversation will go before our Community Services Committee, and then I would ask for approval through at the Common Council at Large meeting, which Ms. Novelette will be prepared to speak and present and respond to any larger questions from the general Common Council.
Okay. Are there any questions relating to this ARPA reallocation? Council Member Dewan Wiggins.
Okay, so I'm back. So I know Jim, his face every time I speak it gets to you. I don't know why. But so this 500,000 is basically all right, we already got the 1.5 set. So this is the other 500,000.
No, sir. No, this is not from the Community Recovery Fund. This is through the general purpose ARPA fund that the city is allocating to support these 600 students so they can have a quality after school experience where they could not afford it.
Okay, so this was once again, I everyone know that I'm new to the council, so I'm trying to figure this stuff out. So I apologize, be patient with me. So this is basically a different ARPA.
A different fund, yes.
A
Well,
different
ARPA dollars, but allocated differently. It is not community recovery 500,000 that I indicated to you. I know that 500, everything is 500, so it came a little confusing.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And
I'm just
again,
trying to
you're
understand
on the Community Services Committee, so she will be presenting at that next meeting to really do a more comprehensive of how the money will be allocated, what students have been identified that receiving scholarships. That will be deliberated in our Community Services meeting, actually coming up next week.
that. Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely be there. But I just another question, like how is this? Is there like a RFP process? Like what's the process of even just coming to receive these funds? Is it something that is it a partnership that the city has with the Carver previously? How does that look? I know we just trying to approve to transfer it over, but how does that happen?
So you will receive an extensive packet of the proposal, and then we deliberate as city departments to see if there's something that we would want to support. In this case, we are supporting this endeavor to support our young students who otherwise would not be able to afford high quality after school, and of course to help parents who work not to pay childcare. So it's helping our families, it's helping our students, and helping parents don't have to worry about a safe place for their children. But again, you will receive the comprehensive packet that lays out the need, the why, and the plan.
No, I understand that, but like how does it come about? Was it a already partner? Was the city already partnered with the Carver, or like did she submit a RFP? Like how did this even come about?
Yes, we do have a partnership with the Carver.
Okay, and it was just something. Did they receive funds in the past like this?
Yes.
Like some of the ARPA in the past, and it was just.
I don't have the whole entire, how much, in terms of funding, but they are a partner and we do fund a variety of programs to support our most vulnerable youth that they serve.
Okay, because I'm really just curious. The reason why I ask, once again, new on the process, but I'm curious about new on the council, but I'm curious about the processes that people have to go through to kind of come to the city and develop these partnerships, right? I'm
One-
curious enough.
Can I just interrupt a second? Just to clarify something here, Duan, this is not giving the money to Carver. This is setting up the money in an account that will be able to, when it's executed, will give the money to Carver. So we're not giving Carver any money here.
Because it's not approved yet by the.
Yeah, but come on, like we all, Jim, we know how this goes. It gets approved here. It goes to the community service committee. The presentation happens. It gets approved to the community service committee. It goes to the council. I understand this. I understand the process. But what I'm trying to figure out is how do even we get to this point? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I could be wrong, but it's my understanding that this is the after-school program that at one point was under the auspices of the Board of Education. A partnership was formed between the city of Norwalk, including the Board of Education and the Carver, for the Carver to partner with the city to take over the after-school program. They are now in need of additional funding to maintain, as Chief Daniels pointed out, the after-school program for 600 students, Norwalk students, that are in need of funding because they cannot afford the cost for the after-school program. And that is what is before us, to provide the funding to maintain the after-school program for Norwalk students.
I think he's trying to figure out what the process is prior to this.
Right.
And I think it's a good question, but I think. Duan,
Yeah,
what do you think?
some of-
Meet with Lamond about
I
it,
wasn't
you know, have
prepared for that,
a-
but I definitely could make myself available. But I will say these relationships predate my tenure. However, there has definitely been a need, and I think the city looked at this very closely, like all proposal requests that come to us basically daily. And we make decisions based on need, based on capacity, based on the number of kids that we can make an impact. And so for the purpose of this transfer, and we are concerned about our children. And again, Novelette in committee, and I understand about the process, and we can definitely speak to that, and we can prepare. My team could prepare a full presentation of what that looks like. But again, Novelette will be able to speak to why this is such a critical need and why the city has stepped up to say, if it wasn't for the city, 600 young people in Norwalk would not be served. And I think that's pretty dramatic.
Yeah, we could talk offline. It's a reason why.
But I think I understand what you're, and I'm more than happy to just have that discussion.
Yeah, and I think it's a time for a discussion for all of it, because the process is extremely important, and the relationships. I understand a lot of this stuff is done by relationships, but it's other conversations that's had that's really concerning me about the process and how this stuff is done. So we could talk more later, because I know everyone want to go to bed. It's almost 9:30, but that's why I'm bringing it, to a close.
If there's no other comments or questions, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the transfer of these ARPA funds, show by a raise of hand. All those opposed have the same right. Any abstentions? Councilman Wiggins, are you voting opposed or in favor or abstaining?
I'm going to abstain.
You're abstaining, so we have 6 in favor and 1 abstention. Chief Daniels, just for clarity, so item 10, we're moving that directly to the council?
Yes, that is my understanding, that you still have to approve the transfer. Then it'll come back to me, and then we will then do the presentation through community services pending the committee moves it to common council for a vote for the contract to then disperse the money to Carver. So you'll hear more about this one again twice.
Well, I'm
Three
just,
times.
I'm trying to get clarity as to the next step. So item 10, that item is going directly to the council for.
Yes,
approval.
absolutely. All of item 10. So is item 11, but I'm just giving you a purview that we'll be coming back with item 11 once we have the presentation through community services to request your approval to then allow Mayor Willing to sign contract to disperse should it be approved.
Okay, because I thought you mentioned that for item 10 with the Carver that Novelette was providing a presentation to community services.
Correct, but you still all have, this still has to go to common council just to approve the transfer is
Okay,
my
so
understanding.
okay, I'm clear now. All right.
Yep,
So
yes, sir.
item 10 and 11 will proceed forward to the next common council meeting, which will be on Tuesday, January 23rd.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, before we move on to item 12, let the record show that Councilmember Melissa Murray has reclused herself and has left the meeting.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 12, which reads as follows: approve ARPA transfer requests for mayor initiative. ARPA account number as noted, AMD 01 in the amount of $450,000 from ARPA account as noted, AEC 14 administrator for ARPA amount of $304,250. ARPA account as noted, AEC 10 innovation grants for startups for the amount of $130,000. ARPA account as noted, AEC 2 digitalization documentation, $15,750. Do we have a motion on this item? Councilmember Jim Freya, thank you. And we have with us Jessica Vonacek, who's Chief of Economic and Community Development, to provide the narrative on this item.
Good evening, everyone. Wanted to provide some narrative on this particular item. As you know, the mayor's office and the city has been working towards becoming the greenest city in the state of Connecticut. And we have a number of different grants and a number of different projects that are spanning across each of the different departments. And so this funding will allow us to be able to centralize the efforts and centralize the grants through the mayor's office that will allow us to be able to work across departments in order to be able to achieve that particular effort. And the number of different codes that are associated to this particular transfer just shows the complexity of the initiative itself, and thinking about not only a project leader who will be able to lead these efforts and keep track of those efforts, but also a number of different initiatives that will go along with that. And so I think that one of the important things to note with this particular item is that although it's $450,000 of ARPA funding, the amount of funding that the city has been able to secure through grants and through funds has doubled that just even in the last couple of years. And we continue to work towards being able to secure funds and grants moving forward with that. So again, this is really an exercise of being able to centralize efforts and centralize the work under a particular lead out of the mayor's office. And the reason why it's in the mayor's office is because each of the different departments needs to be working on these efforts at the same time. And so it's not only an economic development effort, but it's also DPW and the health department. We're all working together in order to be able to move this initiative forward.
Do we have any questions or comments related to this, this reallocation? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of these ARPA transfers, shall raise a hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, and we'll move this item for full council approval on Tuesday, January 23rd. If you can just give me a second to call Melissa back. You can return. Thank you. Let the minutes show that Councilmember Melissa Murray has returned to the committee meeting. And we will now move to item 13, which is motion to adjourn. Councilmember Melissa Murray, thank you. All those in favor show by the sign of aye. Thank you, it's unanimous. Thank you for a long evening, but very important, and have a great rest of the evening. Thank you.